Okay, good morning. Let's get started. So this, so I'm just going to go to the next page. So last time we talked about design rules. Today we'll talk about the fabrication technologies, the different steps in doing it. So quickly, so this from review from last time, we talked about mainly talk about design rules. Why we need to have the design rules so that we can all draw the things in the fabricatable way according to the foundry's requirements. So these rules are set up by the foundries, and then they will tell you the minimum spacing, the minimum size, minimum spacing between the same type of polygons or different type of polygons. So then this is what the design rules are for. And then we said that the MOS transistors, both NMOS and PMOS, they are in fact 4 terminal devices. Most of the time we don't draw the bulk connection, then it becomes a 3 terminal on the schematic when we do a schematic drawings. So for easiness, we neglect the bulk connection. But the bulk connection, when you try to make your circuit, you need to specify where it is. You need to put the bulk connection. For NMOS, you need to put it on the substrate. For PMOS, then you put it in the N-well. That's in the N-well process. Then PMOS is made in the N-well. NMOS is made on the substrate. So then for NMOS, you put the bulk connection on the substrate. For PMOS, which is in the well, then you put it in the well. You have to do this. If you don't do this, you will get in trouble. Okay. And then like we said last time again. So the design rules tells you the spacing between parts, the spacing of this overlap size, spacing between 2 different materials, etc. And then also it's specified in either microns or lambdas. Microns, I don't know when people are still using that, but pretty much every foundry is using the lambda base. But for the lambda base, you have we use the Moses fabrication surface, and they group into 3 types of rules. One is CMOS, scalable CMOS, and then the other one is for the smaller feature size. Then it's called sub-micron. So this is a sub-micron, and then you have the deep sub-micron. So this is for the even smaller feature sizes, etc. So this is more expensive than following these rules, and this rule is more expensive than following these rules. And then you have these 3 different options. So like I said, we use the Moses fabrication surface, and most universities do that. And their web pages here, you can all those design rules are there at their web page. And so Moses offers multiple different technologies, fabrication technologies, and on this page, this is, for example, on semiconductor 0.5 micron process, feature size is 0.5 micron, and for that on semi, you can have different options. So these are 2, for example, here you can see there are 2 CMOS options. The same on semiconductor, since 0.5 is sub-micron, okay, you also have the sub-micron options. Okay, so we select the sub-micron options, then the lithography, the instrument needs to be more accurate to be able to do this. And similarly for example, TSMC 0.18, and then you have the sub-micron options, and then at the 0.18, you could also specify the deep sub-micron options. Again, this one is controlled more tightly than this one, etc. So in the classes from last semester and before, we're using the on semiconductor 0.5 using a scalable CMOS, just scalable CMOS. And starting from this semester, we're using the TSMC 0.18 for the labs and the projects. And we are most likely to using the submicron option, not the deep submicron option. So that's for that. And then so in the options there you see the different names. And then the first S stands for scalable, and then you have C stands for CMOS, and then the N stands for N-well. For example, like the one that we used last semester is SCN3ME. So S stands for scalable CMOS, you're using lambda-based rules. C stands for CMOS, you have both NMOS, PMOS transistors. And then N stands for is N-well, so it's P substrate N-well. Okay? And then the 3M says that you have 3 metal layers. And then the E says that in addition to the poly, the gate poly, you have another poly layer. And then, so here they denoted by this E to stand for that. But some other foundries, some other foundries will just spell out how many polys. Maybe you have a 2P, that stands for 2 poly. And then if you do a HP, then there's a high resistance poly. That option is there. So it has different designations, and different company follows different ones. But you don't need to memorize these. But then you just you need to look at what they mean. Okay. And Moses also offers global foundries that are not listed there, and then their naming is slightly different from these two. And here's a list of these different option names here. And so once you have these conventions, then you can look at this table to say that, well, in this process, in this type of process, it was scalable CMOS with N-well, 3 metals, and another poly. Then you have all of these different layers. And then in this process, you have the N-well, this one also have N-well, that one also have N-well. Then all of these N-well, they follow the same definitions. Okay. So now if you are going to use this one, then you want to figure out, say, what are the design rules related to the N-well. Then you can just click on that one on the Moses web page. Then you can click on it, and then they will just show the design rules related to that material. Okay, if you do that, then it shows the wells, the rules for wells. So both N-well and P-well rules are defined the same way. You have for one well, you need to specify the minimum size. Where is the minimum size? This one. So minimum dimension in any X or Y dimension. Minimum dimension, there's one rule specified there. And then you have 2 types of the same wells. Now, how much is the spacing? You need to put between them. And if they are of the same potential, then the spacing requirements need to be the less. And if they are at a different potential, then you want them to be spaced more farther away. So that's listed there. And for the N-well and P-well, there is also a spacing requirement. And in this scalable CMOS, the N-well, P-well, you can put them side by side. No spacing requirement between them. The minimum distance is 0. Okay, so now think about this. Why for the N-wells? Why do you have to have a gap between? Whereas for P-well and N-well, you can put them side by side. Why? Anybody wants to answer this question? Yes, sir.
Because the P and N-well will form a P-N junction.
Excellent. If it's an N-well or P-well, then at the boundary, then it forms a P-N junction, and you will bias the N-well to be at a higher voltage than the P, and then this is always a reverse bias p-n junction, and there is a depletion region that is like insulated to separate them. So they are still separated. But if it's the same type of well, if you put them together, and then during the fabrication process, the boundary is uncertain, they can grow they can touch each other, then they become connected. So you have to make them far away enough so that they don't merge together by themselves. Yes, sir.
So does this connection have a p-n junction then?
Which connection?
Having the N1 and P1 separated by 1.4?
So when it's separated by, well, this is not 1.4. This is rule 1.4.
Oh, okay.
Now you go to the rule 1.4, then it says minimum distance is 0, lambda.
Okay.
So you can put them together. If you separate them, then this is the N well, this is the P substrate, and then this is the P well. So then the N well to P substrate, you have p-n junction, P substrate to P well is connected. And similarly, if you click the active, you can go to the active rules and it will specify the active to active rules, the space, how much it needs to be, and active to the well's boundary, and these kind of different things. Okay, so they will tell you all this minimum spacing for these different components. And for poly, we have seen this. Use this one as example multiple times. Again, it specifies all the different spacing between them. Now, the another example is the select, n-select, p-select. They follow they follow the same rules. And then here is an example is you have one transistor here, you have the n-select here, and then a small p-select area. What is the relationship between them? But if it's the opposite way, then the rules are still the same set of rules. Now, in the few years back, then we need to try to remember all of these different rules so that when you draw your circuit, and then you know where to place the different polygons. But it started in the Cadence 5. I think it started in the later version of Cadence 5. Now Cadence 6, when you use the Virtuoso, whenever you when you go into Virtuoso, on the left side you have all the different drawing layers there. When you select one, when you click on one, then you are going to draw that one. When you click that one, all the related design rules are activated. Okay, so now when you use your mouse to draw, at that moment, then for example, if you draw N well that's too small, then it will immediately tell you it's too small. You violated the DRC rule, design rule checker. Okay, you violated one design, you have one violation in the DRC errors. Okay, it will immediately tell you that. So now in this case, if you have this one, you draw a polygon, you draw the well, this n-select here, you draw another one, then it will automatically check those spacings. If one spacing is too small, then it will flag, and then you right there you can move it. So now it is not more time efficient. In the old days, you draw a lot of things, and then you say I run DRC. And then it will show you 157 violations. Then you need to move them, etc. So in those days, we tell the students that you don't draw a lot of things. You draw just a few polygons, and then you do a rule check. You draw another few, and then you do a check. And then you can save a lot of time. But now it's all automatic. For every one you draw, it automatically checking the rules for you. So this is much more convenient. So those are all the related DRC things. So any questions? Okay, so now we'll move to talk a little bit about the different process steps. And the corresponding materials in the book are listed here. And then this is a generic flow of the fabrication process. And before on the top, then you get your wafer. But then before that, there is other steps to make the wafers. And then you also have the masks. These are two separate things. Okay, so you have the fabricate, you have the wafers, and you have the masks. And then so now you have your wafer. Then you begin to put one layer, you prepare it, polish it, and etc. And then you for each of the layers that you want to do, you do these few steps. You put some material on the top of the wafer, oxide, and you do CV. We'll talk about the different steps, the positions, and etc. You put some material on it, and then you will do a photo. You will do put a layer of photoresist on it, and then you will do depositions, implantations, etching, etc. Etching is to take away some material. Strip is also to take away other materials. And you planarization is you polish them, make the top surface to be very shiny, flat again. And then there's one layer. And if you have other layers to make, then you will go back to do this group again and again until all the important layers are finished. So then at that moment, your whole the circuit design is done, your wafer preparation is done, and then you go to fabrication. You actually okay. So now the wafer is being made, ready made. So now with the different circuits, dies on it. So now you do this part is the back end, and you probe it, and then you dice it, saw it into different pieces, and then you put it in another package substrate, glue it, and then you do the wire connections, and then you seal it, etc. And then you finally test it and ship it to the customer. So we are not going to deal with any of these. But then in the yellow part, then it involves multiple. Yes.
Where does the doping process take place?
Where is the what?
The doping process and things like that take place.
Oh, the doping mostly. We'll come to that. It's a good question. It's when you make the wafer has doping levels. Okay, so the wafer itself has certain doping levels to it. When you make the ingot, will show that. Then you can you do the doping for your substrate, the wafer, and then for the wells and for the active for those areas, then you do diffusion, you do ion implantation to drive some impurities into those regions. So there are several different ways of changing the doping levels of different materials. Okay, so then here's a list of the different steps that you are used again and again in making the circuits there. So this is a slide from before. For NMOS transistor, this is what you draw. Mostly this is what you draw. You have the active, and then you have the gate party. And then when you just draw that, then sideways it shows you have the you also need to make this is for the PMOS. So this is for the PMOS, and then for the NMOS, then you also need to make a substrate connection there, and so then we can see there are these different materials that needs to be put there. So this is metal, etc. And then you need to put actually more than these layers. Okay, this is for the color on the computer is more easy to see. So this is for PMOS transistor in the N-well process. So your substrate is P, and you make an N-well, and then in the N-well you make this PMOS transistor. So now you need to make the well, and then make this. You make the oxide, the poly, and the metals, etc. You need to do this layer by layer. Now the substrate It's not just some simple substrate. It's a single crystal silicon. And so we typically draw the sideways to see that well, we have bigger, thicker source and drain area here. The oxide is pretty thick, etc. And then the wafer thickness is to here. But this is not proportionally right. It's proportionally wrong. For example, the wafer thickness is in the hundreds of microns range. 300 micron, 250 micron, depending on which process you use. And so this thickness here is in order of hundreds micron range, whereas this thickness here, the oxide below the gate, is only in the order of 10 nanos. So then this thickness here, well, this one is like 10,000 times in the order of magnitude. This is 10,000 times more than this one. So if you draw it proportionally, you can't see it. Okay, you can't see it, and this is try to show that this is less, but still this thick oxide thickness here you can still see it. Actually, you cannot see because this one is 10,000 times thicker than the other one. So that's why we say that the circuit that you are making is on the surface of your wafer, of your substrate. And mostly you see sideways, mostly you just see the substrate, but all the different layers are just on the surface. But then you have so many different layers. But still, for in classroom, we just exaggerate and so that we can see each layer clearly. And on this page is showing the different doping levels of different areas for the. And see, this is talk about the source and drain area for NMOS transistors, and then for the well doping for the P diffusion, the PMOS drain and the source doping, the substrate doping. Roughly speaking, you can just say that well, the actual source and drain area is in the order of magnitude 100 times more heavily doped than the bulk and than the substrate. For PMOS is more heavily doped than the NMOS. PMOS, the minority is there, conductivity is not good. Then you put it a little more higher density to try to compensate for that. But still, with the higher density, you can compare this one. This one with on the previous page is less. So if about 10 times more heavy. So for the PMOS, the source and drain area is 10 times more heavily doped than NMOS transistors, the source drain. But still, they are still not as good as the NMOS transistors. Okay, so like I said, before we start with the wafer, then we need to make the wafer. To make the wafer, then you start put a bunch of sand or rocks. These are all mostly silicon. Okay, so your sand and the rocks were the right type of rocks. Then they are mostly silicon, and then you just melt it and then process it, and then you get like this. You get a part of molten silicon. Okay, you get a part of molten silicon, and you have part of molten silicon, and then you from the top you lower just a stick. A silicon stick is pointy on the bottom. You lower it until you go to near the surface of the molten silicon. Then the silicon will begin to come to the rod, which is cold, will come to it and it will crystallize on it. And then as it begins to crystallize at the tip, then you allow it to crystallize, and then it's going bigger and bigger. There's the tip part there. Then and then you gradually pull it up, and the rod you are spinning, and then then you begin to form this shape here. Once the size become the desired size that you want, and slightly larger than the size that you want, then you increase your pull up speed so that it doesn't grow sideways. So you rotate, spin, and then pull up, and then you form this ingot here. We call this the ingot here. And so now you have cylinder, and then you get this cylinder, and then this cylinder is of about this shape, different size for you can have different sizes here. And then after you have this ingot is made, but then you also notice that as you are pulling up, the ingot on the top is, and then the ingot on the lower part, they have different gravity load on it. So then the crystal structure in it is actually have different stress built into it, and it's not uniform. Then what you do is after you have this ingot, you put it sideways, you put a RF coil in it, and as you are turning the ingot, you put a RF coil around it to heat it up, and you go across the ingot, and then you cool down at the same temperature. Now it becomes more uniform, and then the stress becomes more removed. And even if you do that, then the material inside are still not uniform. And the best way to make it uniform is to do it in the space station. And so in the space station, they can show that if you grow the silicon, this crystal, then you get a perfectly uniform crystal structures. But we cannot do that. If we use those crystals, then each chip is not for $1, it may be $1,000. So after you have the ingot, and then after the stabilize, etc., then what you do is you remove some of the outer part, make the diameter to be exactly the same that you want, and with the desired dimension. So now it becomes a shiny cylinder, and then now you saw it into pieces, into wafers, into pieces, and for different fabrication technology, then you can control the thickness, 250 microns, 350 microns, etc. So you make it into these wafers. So this is before the say, for example, TSMC. Then they will just get the wafers from somebody else. But then the repetitive flow is one is the wafer, the other one is masks. The masks, then you need to make the masks from the mask making place. So you make the masks. The masks is used as it's just like when you take your photograph and you are controlling where you allow the light to go through, etc. So the masks are going to be used for that purpose. So the mask set. So for each layer, then you need to have a corresponding mask set, mask. And then you get a whole set of masks. And it can be expensive, okay? Especially the smaller feature size masks, because your slots are cut so thin, and it's more difficult to make, and they become very expensive. And the way you use mask is you have your ultraviolet light on top. You shine the light through it, passes through the slots, and then these slots through a lens, it gets focused onto the wafer surface. So this is how you use it. And so then so if your light, so then light is going through it here. Okay. So this is the ideal situation. So then you see the lights come here in parallel straight lines, and then after you turn, and then it's straight lines come to the wafer surface. Now, the feature size now becomes so small, and the feature size can be at about less than the wavelength of the light. So then when it comes down, it doesn't go like this. you have refractions, diffractions, and etc. It's not straight lines come in. This one you have to treat it as waves that are going onto the wafer surface. And then so the shapes that you cut, and then the exposed area on the bottom is going to be different from the slots that you've cut it. Okay, and how do you deal with this? And then on the slides, then here this is how you did it, and then especially on when it goes to wafer, and then the corners may be gone, etc. So this is the mask. You draw this mask, but then when you actually go to the wafer, the corners will become round, roundish, etc. So one way to deal with the simple way to deal with that is you compensate a little bit near the corners, etc. And you can do that. And then for the smaller feature size processes, then you need to do even more. Maybe about around 10 years ago, then they began to do the what do we call OPC, optical proximity compensation. So then now on the mask, the cut slot is not even straight lines. Then you maybe intentionally make it different. You look at the density and the proximity areas in it. Then you do a pre-distortion on the way that you cut, and so then people did that, and then later on they do so-called computational orthography. Then what they do is that they will create a mathematical model of how the EM waves, light is EM waves. Okay, you can think of light as EM waves. So you follow the Maxwell's equation, a model how the light will travel from here to the wafer, and then you get a transfer function. Yes, sir.
What is masking?
I'm sorry?
What is masking? I'm just not sure what masking is.
Mask. So then you can go. This one is mask. So then think of this one is like a plate there. You have these holes there. On the top you shine the light straight, and then this mask will block most of the light, and then only at the slots that you will cut, light will go through. So then it will stop most of the light. So that's why it's called a mask. Just like the Halloween mask. Mostly is covered, but then you just a few places the color open, and then the light can go through. You can see.
And why do we mask the wafer?
Why do we mask the wafer? Then we are making a different. For example, you have a gate area, source area. If you want to make if I want to make a gate, then I need to selectively in one area I need to put some material in it. So then I will use something to cover most other places. Just leave this part open. Then I can put the material at the desired location.
So does the wafer absorb the light then?
Wafer does not absorb the light. So we'll talk about that later. The steps of the photolithography. We'll talk about that just a little bit, and you will see how the mask is used. Okay, and then they can get the transfer function from the slots to the patterns, and then for the desired patterns, you do an inverse transformation to get how you should cut the slots in the masks. So now you are going to use the masks in the photolithography steps. So then the way that you do is that suppose I have this whole wafer here. I just want to make one area here. Okay, I want to make one area here. So then, first of all, I will just apply a photoresist material on the whole surface of the wafer. And this is very similar in many of you probably in elementary school. You have seen those. You have a spinner, and then you put a frisbee on it, and then it's spinning, and you drop some color ink to it, and then it spreads out on the whole frisbee. Okay, so then this when you apply this photoresist, this is what you do. You have the wafer there, you spin it, and you drop some photoresist liquid on it, then it spreads out all over the wafer at a certain thickness desired. The viscosity of the liquid will, and then the spinning speed will determine the thickness. So now you have this photoresist material on the top. So now I put the mask on the top. If the mask has one slot in it, then I shine light through it. Then there's only that one part of the photoresist gets exposed. Okay, so now I can process it. There are two types of. If you expose it, if it becomes softened, you can dissolve it. There's another type is the opposite.
What is photoresist made out of, and how does it actually react with light? Okay,
so then that's a very good question. But then let's not get into that. For now, we just say that you have the photoresist. It does not respond to the light exposure. Just like in your film, your original film. I don't know, maybe you haven't used those cameras, the analog cameras before. Now everybody's using the digital camera. The old cameras, you put a film in it. On the film, it has some photosensitive material, and then light comes in, and it reacts differently to it. So then this photoresistant material is just a material that when you put the light to it, then the part that is exposed to the light will have a change. Okay, so now the property is different. The exposed and the unexposed will have a different response. You can have photoresistant materials that you expose it, and then it will stay there. Everybody can be dissolved. There's another type is that the exposed area will stay. Everything else can be dissolved. Okay, so you have these two types. You can use either one. So then in the previous example that I want to make one area here, I can have this one to be light exposed, and then it become softened, and then I can dissolve it. Then this part is open. Every else is still covered by the photoresistant material. Then I can, if I want to put some acid to etch away some material at here, then this part, exposed part, is that now is exposed to the etching acid. Then it will eat away some materials from the surface. You can cut a hole there. So that's why you are using the mask. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, how does it react to the light, etc.? Let's not get to it. I don't understand it, and most circuit designers do not need to understand it. Okay, so you put a photoresistant material, you expose it, and then you process it. Just like when you take a picture, you put the film in it, and then you click the button, and then you take a light in, and then you have it exposed film, and then you take it to the lab, you process it. Some will be removed, some will stay, etc. So this is about the same process, very similar process here. But then on the wafer, you have many different dyes you are going to make. So one place you expose it, you move to another location, you expose it again, etc. Then you use a stepper to do that, and then this stepper needs to go to the right locations to be very accurately. So these steppers are very expensive equipment, and So if you move to another location, if it's perfectly aligned, then you will going to get shapes that are good. But then if you move to so if it's misaligned, then you are going to have errors. And this is especially so this is from one place to another place. That's important. But then we'll come back. For example, when I do make the wells, then I need to place the masks at the right location. And then later on, when I come back to put the gate poly or the transistor in the well, I need to come back to the exact location. So when the next level when you come back, then alignment, coming back to the exact location is very critical. Okay, so, and then there are different ways to make sure that you come back to the same location with very, very good accuracy. Maybe just in nanometer data level accuracy. And if you're using your feature size is only 7 nanometer, then you probably need to come back that the accuracy control needs to be in the sub-nanometer, that kind of accuracy. So that causes the equipment to be very expensive. Okay, so then the deposition. Deposition is a step that you use to put another layer of material on the wafer, and then you can have physical deposition, chemical deposition, and then screening. And physical deposition, you can have again different methods here. Evaporation and condensation is easy to understand. Sputtering is well, at least for me, I had a difficulty to understand sputtering until I saw the machine. And you have part of materials there. You are heating it up using whatever method, and then it bubbles, and then the materials comes up and then gets sputtered into the wafer surface. And in that process, you will spin your wafer and you will change it so that it gets a uniform layer of materials on the top. The chemical vapor deposition is another widely used way of making deposition. Is that you put some gases into the chamber, and once it goes to the chamber, it will make some chemical reactions, and you create some solids, and then the solids will drop onto the wafer surface. So that's chemical CVD, chemical vapor deposition. Or the screening is, I don't think maybe they don't use it now, but screening is like in the old days, at least I did it. You have wax paper, you use some steel pen to cut some, write something, draw something, then the part of the wax is gone. And then you put some ink on it and you use a roller, roll it, and then the places that you use your steel pen rolled will get onto the paper, other places will not. Oh, another thing that is similar that you know is that when you make your T-shirt, okay, on a T-shirt you will make some patterns on it. You use something on there. You cut some things, and you do it. That's similar to the screening. And this is one example of CVD. Is you using this this material here, and then when you put it, send this gas, you send it to the chamber, you heat it up, then it will separate into silicon and H2 hydrogen, and then the silicon will drop to the wafer surface. Implantation is a process that is almost like you shoot your guns and then shoot some bullets into the material. But then now the bullets are ions. Then what you need to do is you need to have like a machine or the gun. Then it will accelerate the ions, make it into high speed, and then it will shoot into the surface of the wafer. And then so the ions can go somewhere below the wafer, and it will stop there. and then but then now it's randomly located in there, and then you can use that to put some materials into the wafer. And here's some explanations, and this is a picture of showing. So you have some material here that will generate ions, and then you create an electric field here, will accelerate those ions. You may use some magnetic field to turn change the direction, and then you can further accelerate it, and then your wafer can be below it, and then this then it becomes a high speed ion particles. Then it will shoot into the wafer. Okay, so after you, so this is I guess it's I don't know whether this is a picture or it's this looks like it's still an artist drawing of this ion implant material. And so that's the implantation. And then etching. So then etching is a process that you will take away some material. Okay, you will take away some material. So again, is the part that you don't want to take away, then it's covered by your photoresist material that is hardened, and it doesn't dissolve in acid. And then for the part that you want to take away, then you let it be exposed to the etching material. For example, acid, some acid, and then you just have all of these wafers, and in the bowl, you put it in this water channel. Actually, not water; it's acid, and then let it stay there for a certain time, and then the material that are exposed to the acid will be taken away by the acid. So this is called wet etching. And then you also have the dry etching. Dry etching is relying on some dry materials. You shoot to the surface, and then they will take out the exposed areas. So this is the one step for removing material, selectively remove the materials from the wafer surface. So this is the etching. Okay, so it's let's just stop it here.